Hello guys, my name is Alexei and I have decided to share some experience and knowledge within the field of the subject English language of the Edexcel specification. It is international A levels and this specification is of 4 units. I've been dealing with it for more than 6 years by now, and I've been teaching English overall more than 10 years. My students say that they do not expect this subject to appear that interesting, so I really hope that there is somebody who may also find the information shared in here useful, maybe before their preparation or while in their preparation for the examination, or when the course is ongoing. So long story short, today I wanted to start with Unit 1 brief overview. Unit 1 is entitled Context and Identity. This is the topic, and what is important about it? Not only do we have context and identity, but also we have something else. So we better start with these 3 main components here, and the components are as follows. So the context is both the situation and the features that describe the situation. So we can say that it's context and contextual factors. We'll speak about them in greater detail a little bit later. This is umbrella term number 1. Number 2 is identity. So identity deals with the speaker's characteristics or traits. A side note that at the exam you're given 2 texts, so there are 2 speakers, 2 communicative situations, thus there are 2 different contexts, and the task is to make a comparative evaluation. And these terms that we're covering right now are necessary to remember what is it exactly that I am covering, and what is it exactly that is interrelated and has an impact on the language in use, which is the 3rd major component here, the language in use or language choices. The language chosen by the speakers. It may appear self-evident, but worthy of noting down that these 3 components are interrelated, so you can just draw a triangle that will show you that all 3 components are interrelated. In what way? Briefly. Contextual factors, without a doubt, have an impact on the language choices. The speaker's identity has an impact on the language choices. The language choices reveal the speaker's identity, and the language choices are as follows within this specified context. So these are the interrelations between the 3. Another thing I wanted to specify is the first component here. So to go in greater detail, which is contextual factors. Usually contextual factors and their description is the very first topic that we cover during the first lesson. By the way, if you're interested in in going into details of the format and the examination task, please note it down in the comment section below. We can do that on some specific examples too. So, speaking of contextual factors, which are very important because they help you to describe and present the situation in your evaluative comment using the terminology. And another side note, the use of terminology is extremely important in your writings here because it sustains the tone, and you really want to show that your evaluation is based on appropriate and adequate use of terminology. So there are just several of them. Mode. It's a good way of remembering them to also remember a question that can be answered, which is, what does mode deal with? Well, mode deals with a channel of communication. So what is the channel of communication? What can it be? It can be a message, it can be a presentation, and it can be a dialogue, a letter, and so on. By the way, worthy of noting down here is genre, especially when we deal with different modes such as spoken and written. We will speak about them a little bit later. So, field is another contextual factor. It is what is being discussed, or what are the topics. This is the field. Several topics should be considered because in whatever genre we take, usually there are several topics introduced, discussed by the speakers. Especially if you take an interview, interviewers ask different questions in order to create a bigger picture about the interviewee, and thus they ask questions from different fields. Tone. What is the emotional coloring? It is an emotional coloring of the message as a whole, and it is also an emotional coloring of the specific places. When we consider tone, we deal with words primarily, because it is with the help of the word and its connotation that we can see whether it is positive, negative, and thus we can evaluate the emotional coloring. Function or purpose. By the way, this one keeps on confusing me because though these terms seem to be interchangeable, however, not always do we see that they are interchanged. So if there is somebody who can specify the exact difference between the two, you're more than welcome to share your thoughts in the comment section. So it is, why do speakers, let's say, speak? Or What do they want to achieve? If anything, of course. Last but not least, in my opinion, voice of the author can also be and should be considered, because usually we speak, when we deal with literature, the voice of Dostoevsky or the voice of Tolkien. And what we mean that there are some specific features that we understand and see that reveal the author's identity, or reveal the author. And this is also something that can be considered. Voice of the author, which is let's specify, are there any specific features to the writer or speaker? Like this. So, as I've said before, terminology is a very important part. Not only do you need to remember the term itself, but also you need to remember the meaning of the term in order to be able to apply the terminology accordingly and adequately in your writing. So I think this is enough for an introductory video. Thank you very much for your attention. Hope to see you in the next one, and yeah, see you soon. Bye bye.